So my birthday in my adoption document says it's November 5th, 1963. I was handed over from one orphanage to Holt in April 1966, and I arrived in the United States December 22nd, 1966. So, yeah, I was 3. And I don't know if I have any siblings. My papers say I was abandoned, and pretty much standard. No, no information on my background, family history, or whatever. And so when I came here, I was escorted by, from what my parents say, a very tall, lanky sailor, and he stepped off the airplane at JFK, and he had this little bundle, and they're like, wait a minute, she's a little small. But for a 3-year-old, at least that's what they were looking for, and I was a little small. But thanks to lots of eating, I'm up to American standards. So the family I'm adopted into is German American on my father's side, and American Indian, Irish, Welsh on my mother's side. And I am the youngest of 4. So I have 2 brothers. One's 4 years older than I am, and the other's 2. And my sister is 11 months older than I am. And they're all blonde, blue-eyed, tall, and the midget. But I'm literally the little sister. So I was in a predominantly white neighborhood, lots of Polish, Italian, Catholics. I live near Trenton, which has a Black population, and our school was integrated as far as Black and whites, but I was probably the only second Asian in the school system as far as I knew. But it's not like I felt like I was going to pal around with the other the other Asian, because I pretty much could tell that her parents were Asian, and she grew up with her own language, and I didn't. And so I already knew that without knowing your parentage, that in a lot of Asian societies that's looked down upon, because you don't know what your blood kin is. So I figured that would be a mark down on me if I were trying to make friends with someone who had a more traditional background. And so I didn't even try. I pretty much wanted to blend in. I wanted to be American. I didn't want to be different. There's a comedy routine of Whoopi Goldberg. It's a long time ago, where she put a white shirt on her head and pretended that she had long hair, long blonde hair. And I more or less did the same thing. And that was kind of my feeling of, oh, when I grow up, I'm going to get eye surgery, and, I hope I'm tall. And not that I thought of contacts, but just the whole thing where you see a different ideal of beauty and normal, and you don't fit it. Definitely not many role models at all, but definitely felt a little different, but I don't know where it came from, but I kind of just held my own and felt that I guess things were going to get better, and hopefully I would feel better about being Asian. And I feel I've gotten there. I would say growing up on the East Coast and being in a metropolitan area has helped me adjust to being racially different, but also maturity. I've come to realize that there's a lot of value in being an individual and not necessarily fitting into a certain group, and maybe even being a part of my own group, which is one really landmark moment was when I went to a huge get-together of other Korean adoptees, and that was in 1999 in Washington, D.C. And that made me realize that, excuse me, there are thousands of people like me. And that felt pretty, it was mind-boggling, and it was fun to interact with people that you felt you kind of had a shorthand with them. You didn't have to explain. Yet also had inside jokes with someone who you'd never met before, but you'd gone through the same things, even though it was a different town, a different country maybe. So meeting people from Europe and having more or less the same feelings of being out of place, but also not belonging in Korea either. And so that through the years, I've met more and more people, and it definitely makes me feel kind of like I'm on the cutting edge of international adoption, because I do see a lot of Chinese girls who, babies who are adopted, and I kind of think, well, we kind of blazed a trail, and we didn't even know it. And not really like we had a choice, but it turned out fine as far as I'm concerned. And I think we probably have a lot of knowledge and resources that could be helpful for other adoptees. And I don't think that it should necessarily have to just apply to Asian adoptees either. Being raised in another culture where you don't exactly fit the visual mold, I think that can apply to Ethiopian or Ecuadorian or, Indian. I think it's applicable across the board. I'm in my third career. I'm looking to become an occupational therapist assistant. That's my goal, and I've always gravitated toward careers where I try to make other people feel comfortable. And I've noticed that whenever I think someone feels out of place, I tend to gravitate toward that person, and I try to make them feel welcome. And I know that where that came from. So I sometimes think, okay, well, I'll be the the hospitality or the welcome wagon. But so I kind of, in some ways, relate to the outsider, and I definitely want people to feel welcome, and so I reach out. So being helpful to people in more ways than just making them feel comfortable. I'll try to do things that will improve their life, like helping someone recover from a stroke or something like that. And that's basically, I think, pretty much where my career or my goals are in life. Not that I ever set out to say, oh, I'm going to make a difference. It just happens that it's part of my nature. I was in Korea a couple years ago, and it was with one of the gatherings. And it's a pretty powerful experience when there's 500 of you collected all in one hotel and in a room, and you have so many different voices or backgrounds, but a common running theme through everyone's experiences. When I've come back from some of the gatherings, I have this period of readjustment. It sometimes feels like I need to. There's a mental shift that here I've been with people who we have so much in common, and then I come back into the real world, and it's a feeling of something that I'd like to share, but when I do try, and it's not because there is an interest on my parents' or my family's part, I just don't think they have a real appreciation or real in-depth understanding. Because there have been times when my sister will say, she'll make comments that make it seem like, oh, are you guys sitting around and, tearing your hair out and crying and, no, not that at all. And it's not a big therapy session. To me, it's just a lot of coming together. My dad is a widower, so my mom has not been around for the past 15 years. And he's never, excuse me, he's never, he might not comprehend, but he does understand that it's important to me for me to attend these gatherings. And he doesn't question that, and he's very supportive. And I'm pretty sure if I decided to do a birth search that he would be supportive. On the other hand, I believe my mom, before she passed away, she probably would have felt threatened. And that might be part of the reason why I've never pursued that. I have met plenty of other Korean adoptees who have, and there's such a wide range of outcomes that I don't feel prepared for the downside. I think maybe doing a DNA search might be interesting, but I'm not sure how far I would pursue. And maybe if someone in my family were looking for me, I'd be open to that. But I'm still very conflicted about trying to dig up old. It just would seem like it's opening up old wounds, but if I knew that there was interest on my biological family's part, I guess I wouldn't completely shut it out of the picture. And it's definitely a topic that I've paid attention to when other Korean adoptees have talked about their birth searches. And I think it's very courageous of them. I'm not sure if I have the I don't know if I can handle that that complexity, the dimension that adds. And I have to say that there is a little bit of resentment of my part that I was given up. So why should I go back? And but I understand the circumstances, but it's a rejection, and I'm not sure how well I could handle a second rejection. So that's my main concern. If I were to put myself out there and do some sort of television or media type of search, how that would feel if nothing came back, or how that would feel if I found something out and they still didn't want to meet me, or it's a lot more than I feel like tackling. I do recall when I was younger, feeling rejected because I'd been given up, even though I knew the economic and societal reasons. And to me, I feel that I've had a very good crack at a good life, which I'm 99.9% sure I would not have if I'd been left in the orphanage and grew up with an unknown parentage. Because from what I understand, you're discriminated against quite a lot. So I feel I've gotten the better end of the deal. But the fact that girls are given up does bother me. There was a point where I felt that international adoption it's actually, I still feel it's not ideal. But I used to believe that. I just didn't think it was right. But I think I've definitely mellowed my perspective. Hearing about other people's birth searches and how their circumstances turned out, it's given me, it's convinced me even more that I'm glad that I was adopted, and I have a family who accepted me, and instead of looking at as saving this poor orphan from a country, war-torn, country, their attitude was more of, we chose you, and we want you. So it was hard to kind of believe that when you're little, that someone says, oh, we really love you, we want you, and I used to make the joke, well, not joke, I guess, sarcasm, that this is before Bryant Gumbel made the comment that adopted children were the best export of South Korea. I didn't quite phrase it that way, but I kind of felt that, I was a cheap import, and I would make that snide comment, but my dad would say that's not how it is. So I definitely had a much more positive and supportive attitude from my family and my father, parents.